right, so the answer is the range, right? All right, let's move on to the next one. Right, yeah, here Montserrat, Leith, Brittany, Alexander. Let's move on to number 2. Right, the answer is the standard deviation. Okay, make sure that you remember all these answers as well for the exam. Okay. All right, Montserrat, Brittany, Vanessa, Yahir, and Leif. Number 3. Right, so the answer is 27, right? The range is what? Is the largest number minus the smallest number. Is that right? So it's 29 minus 2, which is 27, okay? If you see this question on the exam, you should do it right away. You should be able to do it right away. Right, let's see the results. Montserrat, Evelyn, Vanessa, Brittany, Juan. Right, number 4. We just talked about this, right? All right, it's 25%, right? It's Q1 or the 25th percentile. Yeah, so we just talked about this earlier for assignment number 4. All right, we got the same, but now we have the same people, but now we got Jennifer. All right, number 5. This is the same thing about what we just talked about earlier. All right, the answer is 25, right? Because you divide the data set into 4 parts. And so the part that is above Q3 is the last part, right? Which is also 25% of the data set, okay? So it should be 25%. So I'm gonna ask you a question that is not related to this question. So how much data are below Q3? Everyone type in the chat for me. How much data are below Q3? I got Urios, Montserrat, Alexander, right, Leith, Brittany. Below Q3, everyone. Kira, Alones. Right, it's 75%, everyone. the data above Q3 is 25, so the rest to the left of Q3 will be 75, right? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, Sarah, Evelyn, Jennifer, Vanessa, Brittany. Number 6. All right, so the answer is true, right? Because Q2 is the median, the middle number. So there's always 50% of the data values are below the Q2 or the second quartile, okay? Which is good. So yeah, so, and there are what percent of the data above Q2, everyone? Can you type in the chat for me? How about there are what percent of the data above Q2? Type in the chat for me. Sarah, Uriel, how about other people? All right, Zahid, how about other people? It should be 50%, right, everyone? If there are 50% of the data below Q2, Q2 is the middle number, is that right? The median, then there should be 50% above it, okay? Half of the other data values are above it, all right? Let's see the results. We still have the same people. Let's move on to number 7. We just did an example like this for assignment number 4. All right, so the answer is number 4, right? Remember the number 4 for assignment number 4, we did it. So the semi interquartile range is what? Q3 minus Q1 divided by 2. So it's the average of the Q3 and Q1. So it should be 10 minus 2, which is 8, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Evelyn, Monserrat, Jennifer, Uriel, Vanessa. Number 8. You should know this symbol already, is that right? It's the what? The sum, right? So yeah, we just did many examples in assignment number 4. So that notation is the sum, okay? It's like letter M, right? But it's like laying on the side, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Same people. All right, let's move on to number 9. right? It should be the population variance. Anything like the S squared or the sigma squared is about the variance, but the S squared is the sample variance, but the sigma squared is the population variance. And when you take the square root of them, then they will become the sample standard deviation or the population standard deviation. Okay. And if you don't remember all these notations, make sure that you review them. On the guided lecture notes, there's a table of those notations. You can review them. All right, still Evelyn, Maserat, Uriel, Jennifer, Brittany. Let's move on to number 10. All right, so this formula here is the formula that we use for number 4, is that right? So it's the estimated population standard deviation. Okay, even though this notation here is the sample standard deviation, but you can use it for the estimated population standard deviation. But sometimes you can use them interchangeably between the S and the sigma if they are about the population standard deviation. Okay. And if you see that n minus 1, that means that it's about the estimated population standard deviation or estimated population variance. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. I know there's a lot of notations that you need to remember. All right, with Evelyn, Monserrat, Brittany, Uriel, Gabby. Number 11. All right, so most of you got the right answer. So to find the standard deviation, you just have to take the square root of the variance, right? And the square root of 144 is 12, okay? All right, let's see the results. We still have the same people. Let's move on to number 12. All right, look at that. You guys have different answers, right? So remember that we talked about this last time. I talked about the empirical rule. So remember that 68% of the data values are within one standard deviation of the mean. That means that from the mean is the middle number of the normal distribution. You go to the left one standard deviation. So that means that you take 100 minus 10, which is 90. And then you go to the right one standard deviation of the mean. That means that you have to take 100 added to 10, which is 110. So it should be 90 and 110, right? So I'm going to ask you guys a question. So what is the 95% range in a normal distribution? of the same mean and the same standard deviation? Type in the chat for me. Type in the chat for me. What is the 95% range using the same mean and the same standard deviation? The two numbers, one is to the left and one is to the right of the mean. So what are those two numbers? I got Evelyn's. The 95%, everyone. About other people? Zahid? Good. It's good that you guys try, even if you guys don't get it right, that's fine, but I want you guys to try. What is the 95% range using the same mean and standard deviation? So in this case, you have to go to the left two standard deviations. So what is the number on the left, everyone? If you go to the left two standard deviations, then what is the number on the left? Then you have to take 100 minus 2 times 10, right? Which is what? 80, is that right? Yeah, so 80. So it's gonna be 80, and so the first one, number on the left will be 80, right? It will be 100 minus 20, right? Which is 80, okay? You have to go to the left two standard deviations of the mean, so that means that you have to take 100 minus 2 times 10, which is 100 minus 20. And then you go to the right two standard deviations. So what is the number on the right, everyone? I got Uriel's already. How about other people? If you go to the right two standard deviations, so what is the number on the right? Type in the chat for me. All right, I got Zahid's. Who else got the answer? So that means that you have to take 100 added to 2 times 10. So what is the answer, everyone? Other people? What is 100 plus 2 times 10? About other people? So to the right, you have to take 100 added to 20, right? Which is 120, okay? Yeah, that is the number on the right. So if it's the 95% range, then it's gonna be between 80 and 120, okay? All right, we need to review this later as well, so make sure that you guys get it completely. All right, let's move on to the last question. Let's check the results. All right, now we got Jennifer and still the same people. The last question. All right, so the answer is 95%, which is what I just talked about. Is that right? So 95% of data values lie within 2 standard deviations of the mean. That means that from the mean, you go to the left 2 standard deviations, and from the mean, you go to the right 2 standard deviations, okay? So that means that 95% of the data values lie within 2 standard deviations of the mean, okay? All right, make sure that you guys review all these questions for the exam, okay? Because on the exam, they will ask you about these questions, about your understanding Right, let's see who is the winner. Jennifer, Sarah, and Evelyn. Congratulations.